We're starting with WWE, and it was in January that Seth Rollins suffered an injury during a match with Jinder Mahal, which turned out to be a grade 2 MCL tear and a partially torn meniscus. Despite this, Rollins has continued to appear on WWE TV and vowed to be healed in time for WrestleMania, and the Architect has kept his word. At a WWE live event in Alexandria, Louisiana, Rollins returned to the ring and teamed with Cody Rhodes to defeat Jey Uso and Solo Sikoa in a tag team match. Not only was this good training for Rhodes and Rollins as a team, but Seth cemented his return by getting the pinfall on Jimmy after a stomp. Rollins and Rhodes will team at WrestleMania Saturday, while Seth will defend against Drew McIntyre on night 2, as the world champion will be making up for lost time now that he's back. At Revolution, Sting wrestled his final ever match and made an epic entrance alongside his sons Garrett and Steven Jr., who wore attires fitting of the occasion. Garrett dressed as his father's Surfer Sting persona, while Steven donned the red and black of Wolfpack Sting, but this entrance was nearly different. Sitting down with comicbook.com, Steven explained that originally, until a week or so before the match, the plan was for himself to be dressed as Crow Sting and don the black and white. That was until Darby Allin pointed out that Sting, the real Sting, was already doing the black and white, and having 2 Crow Stings and 1 Surfer Sting may have seemed odd. Everyone in AEW agreed with the idea, so Steven became Wolfpack Sting, though because of WWE copyrights, his costume wasn't a perfect replication of what his father wore in WCW. Nevertheless, the Sons helped make the night extra special for their iconic father, who ended his AEW career on top with a hard-fought win in the show's main event. Since capturing the WWE Women's Tag Team titles, the Kabuki Warriors have been fighting champions, including a title defense last week at the NXT Roadblock special. Less than a week later, the champs will put the titles on the line on Raw against Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler, but there's some growing frustration within WWE about this booking. Fightful Select notes that officials were happy with Asuka and Kairi Sane at NXT Roadblock, but there was some frustration with the champs having a title defense booked for next week's Raw. It's not stated where these frustrations come from, though it could be that having the Raw match already announced practically gave away that they'd be retaining at NXT Roadblock. Ultimately, WWE only has one set of women's tag team titles, and that division is often found to be lacking, and we'll have to see if this booking changes amid growing frustrations backstage. At NXT Roadblock, Dijak defeated Joe Gacy in an Asylum match, and the two held nothing back in this modified steel cage match filled with weapons. This match was a match of the night contender, and Fightful Select reports that the bout garnered a ton of praise backstage in WWE. One particular moment that stood out saw Dijak executing a breathtaking moonsault from the top of the cage, and he earned a special praise for his spot in question. Dijak won after hitting 2 Feast Your Eyes on Gacy in what was seemingly the culmination of their feud, and with all this backstage praise, the future looks bright for both NXT superstars. Last month, Maryse took to social media to share that she had been diagnosed with a pre-cancer condition that was identified as serous borderline tumors. These tumors are a rare condition that affect the ovaries, and the former WWE Divas champion noted that she had undergone laparoscopy surgery to remove 11 of these tumors. Now Maryse is given another update on her situation, as she told fans via her Instagram stories that her surgery went well and that she is recovering. Maryse added that she appreciates and has been touched by the positive messages from fans, and we'd like to send our own best wishes to the WWE personality at this time. The last time fans saw Sheamus in a WWE ring, it was back in August of last year in what would be the final WWE match of Edge before his move to AEW. The Celtic Warrior has been out of action with a significant shoulder injury, and with his contract also set to expire this year, there's been speculation as to what's next for Sheamus. Whatever's to come, we won't learn of it via social media, as despite being known for being active on Twitter, Sheamus has deactivated his account. In January, it was reported that Sheamus was expected to return from his injury soon, but there's still been no sign of him, and deactivating his Twitter has only raised new questions. During his absence, the Brawling Brutes have split, Ridge Holland has gone to NXT, and Butch is now Pete Dunne, so Sheamus will be returning to a much different WWE when he does return. Sheamus had 4.7 million Twitter followers, but they won't be hearing from him now, and what do you make of this? Sound off in the comments. Within a matter of days, Mercedes Mone is expected to make her AEW debut close to 2 years after we last saw her in WWE, but she may not be the only ex-superstar to become All Elite. In September of 2023, Shelton Benjamin was released from WWE, and Fightful Select reports that Tony Khan's first promotion is very interested in the Gold Standard. The two sides have recently had conversations and discussed the possibility of him appearing, but it is unclear if a full-time deal or any deal has been signed at this time. There were people pushing for AEW to sign Shelton last year when rumors sprouted that his WWE contract was up, and while that wasn't the case, he got released anyway. Benjamin had been with WWE since before AEW started, so he'd never had the opportunity to work in the promotion, but with that said, he does have an extensive history in ROH. Shelton Benjamin is a veteran with a ton of talent, two things that will endear him to AEW management. And will he be All Elite? Give your thoughts in the comments below. We've got some tragic news to report now, as Yatuka Yoshi, a name associated with several wrestling promotions in Japan, has died at the age of 50. Not only has Yoshi passed away, but he died shortly after what would be his final match, as All Japan Pro Wrestling reported on Twitter this week. Yoshi was rushed to a hospital in Takasaki City after his tag team match at the All Japan Dream Power Series, but passed away shortly after. Yoshi started his wrestling journey in December 1994 and would start in New Japan, and would become an independent star in 2006, which would see him work with All Japan and Noah. He was a former All Japan and IWGP World Tag Team Champion, with his All Japan reign being with Akebono of WrestleMania 21 fame, and his other tag title run being with Hiroshi Tanahashi. Yoshi was planning to hold an anniversary show in December of 2024, celebrating his 30th year in wrestling, and our condolences go out to those who knew him at this awful time. As we mentioned, Mercedes Mone is expected to debut for AEW during this week's big business episode of Dynamite in what will be a huge score for Tony Khan. This will also mark Mone's first contract with a Western-based promotion since exiting WWE, and recently the boss had some words for her time as Sasha Banks. During an appearance on the Kick Rocks podcast, Mercedes Mone was asked about her former persona, and despite her WWE exit, was appreciative of who she once was. She said, "Sasha Banks is a legend, an icon, a powerhouse. Someone who stands up for what she believes in, is a legit boss. They got that trademark for a good reason. I played that role really good. A legit boss inside and outside the ring, and will lay it all on the line. She has a heart of gold. Sasha Banks, what a career. What an amazing career. The thing about that, it makes me even more excited to see what Mercedes Mone can do." While Mone will debut at AEW within the next 7 days, she also said in the interview that she is sure she'll return to WWE one day, so fans haven't seen the last of Sasha Banks. Of course, such a return hinges on WWE wanting her back, but for now, Mercedes Mone is ready to make a statement during this week's Big Business Dynamite in Boston. But what do you make of Mone's comments? Do you agree that Sasha Banks was a legend, icon, and powerhouse in WWE? Give us your take in the comments below. Last night, the stars came to Los Angeles for the annual Academy Awards, and the ceremony saw a fair bit of representation from those in WWE. For the Best International Feature category, The Rock was on hand to present, and was accompanied by the always impressive in the ring Bad Bunny. The two were dressed to the nines for the ceremony, unlike John Cena, who appeared naked at the ceremony, 50 years on from when an actual streaker interrupted a speech from David Niven. Of course, Cena wasn't actually nude at the Oscars, but wore flesh-colored underwear to preserve his modesty, and would hold a conveniently placed envelope around his manhood. Cena crab-walked to the microphone and spoke about the importance of costumes in films, in another hilarious moment from the wrestler-turned-acting megastar. It was in late 2022 that AEW allowed William Regal the chance to return to WWE so he could be closer to his son Charlie Dempsey, on the rule that he couldn't be on TV for his first year back. Well, during WWE's NXT Roadblock, Regal got real close to his son as the veteran confronted Dempsey, fresh off his NXT Heritage Cup win and the No Quarter Catch crew. Fightful Select reports that Regal was initially not listed for the promo segment, which isn't too much of a surprise, as WWE often keeps surprise returns hidden on documents to avoid leaks. The report adds that Regal's promo, in which he spoke about defending the cup with integrity, will play a role in Dempsey's on-screen direction in the next few weeks. Despite chants of "he's your father" by the crowd, WWE made no reference to the familiar bond between the two, with commentary instead suggesting Regal could challenge for the cup. Many fans want to see Regal manage his son, but that doesn't seem to be the plan, at least not yet, but don't be surprised if we see more segments with the two in the coming weeks. On the latest episode of AEW Rampage, Saraya, her brother Zack Knight, and Harley Cameron confronted Renee Paquette following an interview with Saraya's current rival, Ruby Soho. Saraya cut a promo on Soho before Knight chopped an unfortunate soul stood in the background, but fans were more interested in the choice of attire of Knight and Harley. On Twitter, fans noticed that Knight wore a studded leather jacket similar to what Karrion Kross wears, and his vicious attitude also led to fans calling him a copy of the SmackDown superstar. Fans also pointed out similarities between Scarlett and Cameron, though Scarlett recently dyed her hair brown, so that's at least one big difference between the two. After years of work, Zack Knight has finally made it into a major wrestling promotion, but do you think his look was a bit too similar to Kross to be mere coincidence? Let us know down below. If you've listened to any of Nigel McGuinness's commentary on Bryan Danielson, he makes clear he doesn't like the American Dragon, and that feeling is mutual. Whenever Bryan appears, the British commentator can be heard mocking him, even going as far as to referring to him as Brittle Danielson, given his history of injuries. On the most recent episode of AEW Collision, Danielson confronted McGuinness after his match with Shane Taylor and gave the announcer a death stare at ringside. McGuinness fired back by telling Danielson to go back in the ring, and these interactions have led to speculation about a match between the two, possibly in Nigel's home country at All In. Nigel McGuinness retired from wrestling due to a medical condition in 2011, but we've seen several names who were told they'd never wrestle again since return to the ring. Adam Copeland, Saraya, and Danielson himself were all retired, and now are all part of the AEW roster, and could the British commentator be the next to make an unlikely return? During a recent match on AEW Rampage, Sammy Guevara broke Jeff Hardy's nose, and the Spanish God continued the match in a move that went against protocol. While Jeff did not suffer a concussion, as testing revealed after the match, Guevara was meant to let the test happen in the moment and was suspended for going against the protocol. On a recent edition of his Extreme Life of Matt Hardy podcast, Matt shared when he learned of Guevara's suspension and revealed he wasn't told ahead of time. He said, "The whole thing about Sammy being suspended was all new to me until broken by Sean Ross Sapp. That was all new to me, but it is what it is, I guess." Jeff Hardy has not wrestled since the incident with Guevara, and there's no word on when fans can expect to see Guevara, a three-time AEW TNT champion, back in the ring. Concussions are serious business, and while Jeff didn't have one, he should have been tested, and will continue to follow this unfortunate situation for further details. Last week, UFC held its big UFC 299 event in which Michael "Venom" Page made quite the entrance as he arrived for his fight to the Undertaker's theme song. While he didn't don the dead man's iconic hat and coat, Page's black cloak and purple lighting made for a striking entrance, one that caught the attention of the WWE Hall of Famer. Taking to Twitter, The Undertaker said that Page had a nice entrance for the event and congratulated him on his third-round victory over Kevin Holland. This is hardly the first time that Undertaker has been represented in UFC, as Israel Adesanya previously made an entrance that included the Phenom's signature hat and urn. There's clearly a lot of love for The Undertaker in the UFC, as even those from the more legitimate world of MMA recognize the legacy of one of WWE's all-time greats. And we're ending with Smackdown, whose 5-year deal with Fox will end this year, and at the time it was signed, the $1 billion deal was the biggest deal WWE had ever signed. That deal has since been dwarfed by the $5 billion Netflix will pay for a decade of Monday Night Raw, but why exactly did Fox opt to not renew their current contract? Dave Meltzer reports that this all came down to money, as they simply didn't want to match what the USA Network was willing to pay to obtain the rights to SmackDown. The USA Network will once again become the home of SmackDown this October, and will pay $279 million a year for the Blue brand, far more than Fox were willing to fork out. Meltzer did say that Fox would have gladly kept SmackDown on its programming if the price had been lower, and made clear that this wasn't a case of Fox not wanting to continue with WWE. Fox may have still wanted to keep SmackDown, but the price USA was offering was just too high, as things will look much different for the Blue brand in October of this year. But what do you make of this? Should Fox have paid out more to keep SmackDown on its slate of shows? Let us know in the comments below.